And he's doing that because there's a female close to him. And you may find that there's another male somewhere here as well. There's a female, you can just see her there. That's one of his ladies. I see two of them there. It's a young calf and mom. Actually, it's a lamb. That's the youngster. Also standing with that crest of hair erect on the back. And that's just in response to that male fluffing up his tail and fluffing up his crest. Have a look on the back left leg. You'll notice a bird there busy combing through the fur on the hock of this nyala. That is an oxpecker or tick bird. And in particular, it is the red-billed oxpecker. And you'll notice that the nyala are fairly hairy. You'll notice that oxpecker is tolerated, and you'll see that oxpeckers combing through the hairs. They have this comb on their bottom bill. And an oxpecker is busy combing through the hairs, combing out mites and ticks. There you've got a very good example of their foot structure. For those of you who are quick on the draw, have a careful screenshot of that foot structure. They've got a zygodactyl foot, very similar to a parrot's foot. A zygodactylous foot. 2 toes facing forward, 3 toes facing backward, as opposed to the more common 3 toes facing forward, 1 toe facing backward configuration of a normal perching bird or a normal passerine bird, as they're called. So that is a male nyala or nyala bull, and some female nyalas or nyala ewe. And you'll notice that I'm using the bull and ewe as opposed to bull and cow or ram and ewe, and it's because at the nyala the differentiation between the two is made. So anything larger than a nyala is a bull and a cow. Anything smaller than a nyala is a ram and a ewe. Beautiful. Actually, don't find many nyala further south in the Sabi Sands. They become common again in Zululand. But further south in the Sabi Sands, although I saw them once or twice a year, let me say, yes, once or twice a year, they were not very common at all. Whereas here, they're one of the most common of the antelope species that we found, and for me, one of the prettiest. He's still got his tail erect there, flaring up his profile. It's called a philo or philo erection. P-H-Y-L-O is how you say it or how you spell it. And that's so that he can make his profile look good. So when he's posturing, which is what it's called, he looks more impressive. Slightly so that you can get another view of him. Such a beautiful setting here. Although I think that's probably the last you're going to see of him there in that thick bush. Moving off. Wanting us to say goodbye, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to carry on with our drive. Goodbye, big guy. Thank you so much for letting us see you. So nyala, male nyala. Pamela, you've asked me if there's any jackals around, and you know, it's been a while since I've actually seen a jackal here at Djuma, to be honest. It's actually been a while since I've seen a jackal anywhere, to be honest. Jackal, very similar to wild dog, takes strain towards the end of the dry season, because they're really susceptible to rabies outbreaks. And this year we had a few rabies outbreaks. And I'm almost convinced that the jackal population has taken a bit of a hammering from rabies. And that's why we aren't seeing them. We're not even hearing them. And they were at a stage quite common. Saying that that's exactly what's happened. High leopard numbers and high lion numbers also controlled. Not recently, but we've had, over the last year, we've had an intense amount of lion activity and an intense amount of leopard activity on Djuma. I can't remember who it was. I think it was actually Brent who filmed a leopard killing a jackal after some hyena chased, or Brian just says he was with him. It was a hyena, I think, chased the jackal into a leopard, which killed the jackal, and then a hyena came and finished it. It was a bit of a story. But so there we have a pale form Wahlberg's eagle with an intensely full crop. So has had a good feed, and good for them. The bush has all of a sudden become very still and very humid. And when I look up, I'm just watching these clouds roll in. I actually think it's going to rain within the next couple of minutes, to be honest. Slight breeze picking up. It's that calm before the storm. Just to come back to you for the birds that we're having a look at. This is a pale form Wahlberg's eagle. Standing there with a full crop, resting above her nest or his nest, at peace with the world. They will eat almost anything. They do hunt. They will eat insects. They actually come down here specifically to feed off of termites. And they will scavenge as well. I've seen them scavenging as well. So they will take food where they can get it. They're not any specialists, they're sort of the generalists, and that's what really is successful out here, very similar to leopard. Alright, let's carry on. Eagle is a true eagle, and how to eat the eagle is by having to look at their legs. True eagles have feathered legs all the way down to their feet. So if you have any eagles in your area and you're battling to differentiate between eagles and buzzards and falcons, true eagles have feathers all the way down to their feet, and that's how you tell the difference between a true eagle and the other birds. Give a little bit of a head start in your birding careers, or your birding hobbies, I should say. Now I feel like going to go and have a look at Treehouse Dam. Why not, is the question I always ask myself.
Sorry guys for the time spent trying to find her, but we've got her. The first time I have seen this leopard in a very, very long time, and unfortunately it's going to be an incredibly brief sighting spent with her. Here she comes in front of us. The extraordinarily beautiful Kwatile. Looks as though she's about to cross our boundary. I'm right on the edge of the Arathusa boundary, but we managed to get her. Sure, that was quite the experience. She was all over the place. Cheers, Sean. Thank you. but we got her. Oh, wow. First time I've seen her in a long time. That was entirely thanks to the kindness of the Arathusa guides. Various guides making space for us because they know that we can't traverse any further than this. So they made space for us at the sighting. She's all over the show, which is why it took us so long to find her. Awesome stuff. She's on the prowl. She is hunting. The question is, where is she going to come to next? We've been so lucky. We're right on the corner. Awesome, awesome stuff. A big leopard. She's much taller and much stockier than both Karula and Shadow. She really has the most incredible features and is the most incredible color. Wonderful. This is awesome. For those of you, this might be your first time seeing Kwatile. Thank you, Roy. This is epic. A new leopard for so many viewers. There she goes. She's got the most gorgeous golden color. Awesome. Look at that grace. Her feet are also much, much bigger than both Shadow and Kwatile combined. This is our boundary road, ladies and gentlemen. So if she goes to the right, it will be the last view that we have of her. She's about to cross. Thanks, Roy. Who's going to watch her cross? Shop. Thank you. Zinc. Prima pimpan. Oh, wow, guys. Wonderful news is that she's got 3 new cubs, apparently. Roy's just told me. And that's why her belly's looking a little bit saggy. Our last view of her. That is wonderful, exciting news. There you can see the little bit of a droop to her belly. Oh, when we lose our last visual of her, I'll find out from Roy where she's denning her cubs. As she crosses into Hoffman's. Phew, and we got here just in time.
Okay, we're going to clear on for here. Now, 6%.
Awesome. Really, really cool stuff. Absolutely awesome. And we got there just in time. We just crossed into Hoffman's. I'm just going to chat to Roy quickly. Thank you so much, Roy. Cheers, guys. Enjoy. Oh, he's going to go on after her. Right, once this drive is over, I promise I will get into contact with the other guides and figure out exactly where she's denning her cubs. Just going to stick around for one last moment, see if we can't get a final visual of the wonderful Kwatile. It was short and sweet, but it's the first...
Impala bark.
Sorry?
I heard impala bark.
Oh, impala barking already. Oh, yes, there we go. She might be hunting. Let's stay here. Hold on. Thank you, Viam. The impala are alarm calling. It's probably the end of that hunt. Oh, there she goes. Well done, Viam. moving away from the alarm calling impala. That sharp electrical sound that you can hear, that sound. Roy's telling me to come. Now, because this is an access road, we should be, as far as I know, allowed to film as she moves along it. The boundary is a really confusing one. There's the Arathusa private sign right there. So we can watch her move just to beyond that. I'm going to stop here just in case. I don't want to be breaking any kind of agreement. Oh, awesome. Imagine how it feels to be the guests on that vehicle. Awesome. And off she goes into Arathusa private. Yay! We even got a special last view of her. And that wonderful news that she has cubs. She's crisscrossing all over the place now. She is hunting. I actually don't really want to leave just yet, just in case she decides to come back up this way. So the reason it took me so long to find the sighting is because she kept changing direction. So from the middle of the block to try and find her, she was going north, then she was going west, then she was going south again. And that's why there was a little bit of time taken to try and catch up with her. I was luckily really close to where she was first called in. I just want to stop for one moment, just in case she decides to come back across in our direction. Where did you go? Alright, so a new leopard for a lot of viewers, and Elise in Washington. You were wondering a little bit about her story. So as far as I know, she's the daughter of Ntimba, a leopardess who is very often seen around Arathusa. She's also related to the Vomba female line of leopards, and you can see that in the genetic differences, in the size difference that you see from between Shadow and Karula, for example, and with Kwatile. She's also an incredibly different color. Now, the only time I've ever seen... Who's coming here? Oh, Impala. The only time I've ever seen her was when she was mating with Tingana, where she moved on to Djuma and Arathusa. So her boundary is right around this Hoffman's area. She overlaps with Shadow's southern boundary. So we occasionally get to see her around the airstrip. And she came onto Djuma recently. Oh, I say recently, actually. My sense of time is a little bit off. I'm just going to move back towards that junction just to make space for another vehicle that's coming up the road and into the sighting. So she's related to the Vomba female line. She's been seen mating with Tingana by us, and she followed him onto Djuma a couple of months ago with Scott. As far as we know, she's never successfully raised a litter of cubs. So that time that we saw her mating with Tingana, she'd actually just lost her litter that she had. She still had suckle marks. Oh, whole herd coming up now. So she lost her cubs, we don't know how, fairly recently. And so about 3 months ago, she was mating with Tingana. And apparently now, according to Roy, she has 3 little cubs. I will find out exactly where it is she's denning. This southern section is more around her core territory. So we don't often get to see her, which is why I was so excited to be able to show her to some of the newer viewers. She really is the most extraordinary looking leopard. And last time we saw her, she is a little bit injured. She had a couple of wounds in her side. Those have healed up really nicely. She had an injury on her back leg as well. Also looking absolutely fine. And such a treat to know that she's now got cubs hidden somewhere. Awesome. It's so exciting seeing a leopard it's always exciting seeing a leopard, but it is so exciting seeing a leopard that we don't often get to see. And VM and I said this afternoon that's what we were after. In fact, we even mentioned Kwatile, eh, VM? Yeah. We mentioned that we were going to try and find Kwatile. I didn't say it on air, though, because I didn't want to make any empty promises. But we got so lucky. Alright, I can't hear any more Impala barks, and I can't hear Roy's vehicle anymore. So I think he's still with her, but I think she's continued her movement south and actually moved on. I'd love to learn a little bit more about the wonderful Kwatile. I'd love to know a bit more about her life story. We haven't followed her as closely as we have, say, for example, Karula or Shadow. But we are starting, or I'm personally starting to learn a little bit more about her. She is fascinating looking. I know that one viewer has suggested that Karula and Kwatile share the same father, so Mfufunyan, the Mfufunyan male. That's always entirely possible. It's very difficult to tell with leopards. So you will see a female mating with a male and automatically assume that he's the father of the cubs. But for newer viewers, just to give you a sort of a rough idea of how female leopards work, they'll actually mate with as many males as possible. So their territory might overlap with that of, say, for example, 3 different males. In the case of Shadow, 2, Tingana and the Anderson male, as far as we know, as well as any unknowns that might wander in. So she'll try and mate with as many as possible to try and increase the chance of tricking them into thinking they are the father. But there is a chance that Karula and Kwatile share the same father. I think she's gone. I think she's moved further south, but I'll keep listening for updates on the Game Drive channel. Awesome stuff. I think I've been a little bit caught out by Leo's question. So Leo's a 10-year-old viewer. Leo, I'm going to answer your question one moment. I just want to call in that I'm leaving this sighting. Stations leaving Kwatile and the Fuzzy Ingwe with Roy on lock. She looked like she was moving south down Triple M. Beast. So the question that was asked. Sorry guys. Wildebeest herd dashing across again. Switch off so I don't startle them anymore. So Leo, I think it was Leo, who is 10 years old, you wanted to know, why do leopards have territories? Why can't they go wherever they want to? It's a very good point, Leo. So if a leopard is, let's start with a female leopard. Let's say that she has a territory, and we can apply this answer, Leo, to almost all of the animals out here that have territories. Why do lions have territories? How does it work? First of all, Leo, don't think of her territory as a set shape that she has to be in. She can move around the edges, or he can move around the edges as he wants to. But let's say for a female leopard, he's got her special area where she can raise her cubs without any of the other leopards around her being a threat to them. So sometimes what happens is leopards that are not related to each other might kill a cub in order to increase the chance of their cubs surviving. So if you, let's say all the leopards, let's say none of the leopards had territories, and they all decided that the best place to be would be all around the river because that's where you find the most animals, so there's the most animals for them to eat. So they'd all be stuck together in competition with each other and therefore competing for food with each other. So they need to have their own specific spaces, just like you may have an apartment or a house that your family lives in. That's the way that leopard territories work. Now the wonderful thing is that although they can't necessarily go exactly where they want, it means that they learn everything about that piece of land. So if you're hunting, if you're a leopard that's hunting and you know this territory, you've lived there for 11 years, say like Karula, or as many years as Kwatile has lived here, they know where the paths are, they know where the perfect bush is to go and hide behind. So they know those territories inside and out. They know where the best place is to go and raise their babies. And then what they can do is, when they have babies, they can make space for their daughters. So it's almost like giving a little bit of a portion of their land for a daughter that can then establish her territory next door to her mom. The males, it's a little bit different because they want to go out and they want to look for an opportunity to spread their genetic material, so to mate with as many other females as possible. And to do that, they have to keep other males away because their job is to pass on their genes, not another male's genes, their own genes. They want to make their own offspring. And so they do that by patrolling territories and trying to keep other males away from the females. So that's a sort of a rough summary as to why leopards have territories and why they can't go just wherever they want to. It's the way that they've evolved to work. And the same goes for lions as well. So we'll go over here, where there's a little bit of space. Cheers, thanks. Difficult to tell them apart. Each leopard is unique. Each leopard has a unique spot pattern. Scientifically, they tell the difference by looking at the top row of spots because they have a unique combination of numbers. And then you start to get to know the areas that the individuals move around in. And it becomes a bit easier to identify them. Now, many of our regular viewers will, I'm sure, back me up in saying that once you get to know a particular individual, when you see them, you can recognize them, not necessarily instantly, but you don't have to sit for as long and try and guess at which leopard it is. So you start to get to, I just feel rain on me. I did feel rain on me. Oh, that was a surprise. The sky's blue over there, but it is definitely drizzling on me. Oh well, that's nice. What a nice surprise. How wonderful. Kwatile and rain. Couldn't get better than this. Now we need a bulla. BM says now we need a bulla. Okay, let's do it. 2 leopards in 1 drive. Let's go find a bulla. Mentioned that I felt as though there was a chance that Kwatile and Karula have the same father, and they will have met at some point in their lives, but James Taylor would like to know if you've got 2 females with the same father but from different mothers and they were to meet up for the first time, would they know each other? Would they have a similar scent genetically? Would there be some kind of recognition there? James, I have no idea, and I'm not entirely sure that we would ever know unless we did some really serious research into the genetic capabilities of leopards to recognize a relative. That's a really difficult question to know. How would we know? Because quite often female leopards, when they meet each other, even if they're unrelated, they don't fight each other. There's no serious conflict, no serious physical conflict. Sometimes they just look at each other and move off. Sometimes they growl. If they're Karuna, then they might even blow a glorious spit bubble for the entertainment of all involved. But generally it doesn't come to physical blows. It might happen one every 100 cases. And how would we know if that's because they know that they're related to each other or not, or because of something that's happening in terms of relating to that scent? I couldn't begin to guess the answer to that. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's one of those wonderful mysteries that we may never know the answer to. Well, we've had a really special time with Kwatile. It was brief, but it was wonderful. I'm going to continue on my search for Mvula now, apparently. And in the meantime, let's head over to Steph and see what he's been up to.
I don't know how I'm going to compete against that fantastically beautiful creature that you've just been with. Not the wildebeest, although they are pretty, but the leopard I was referring to actually. Myself and Brian have just been idling along, having a good old chat and trying to find some sign of life. We found a few zebra who were moving away into the bush. We found one other buffalo who was lying watching us from a termite mound, and that is about that for now. So what I thought that we'd do is we'd go and pop our faces into the hyena den for this afternoon, go and see what is happening over there. I'm sure that they are celebrating the rain just the same as what we are. And it'll be interesting to see what happened. You know, I was looking at their termite mound home yesterday thinking, wow, if it rained hard, their mound would actually flood because there wasn't a ridge. You know, normally outside these termite mound homes that they've got, they've built themselves a ridge there. And they haven't quite got that right yet, and I think it's simply because it hasn't rained yet while they've been in residence, and they haven't managed to shore up their termite mound. So we're going to go and have a look. I'm going to switch on my game drive radio. Paul has just said hyenas are waiting for the camera to roll before they decide on shoring up, and I'm sure that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what I'm hoping them to do anyway. This is going to take us a couple of minutes to get there. In the meantime, I'm sure we could strike up a conversation. What I do want to do is, if you just bear with me, is ask if anyone is actually there. Is any station with the hyena den off of Mvubu Road? Doesn't seem like anyone is answering me, which is a good thing. So now we're just going to call ourselves in there. That's just good radio etiquette. The stations, I'd like to make my way into the hyena den position of Mvubu Road. I'll be there in the next 2 to 3 minutes. It's Stefan. No one's even said anything to say thank you for that. Brian giving you something to keep yourselves busy trying to decipher. Les B, you just asked me if they collar any animals, or do they collar all animals? I presume you are speaking about animals that are big enough to put a collar on. It's obviously difficult to put collars on birds and things like mice or insects or things. I'm presuming you're talking about putting them onto large mammals, and yes, you can put collars on almost anything. They're not always the best thing to put on animals, I must be honest. But here in the Kruger National Park, we see collars on buffalo, we see collars on elephant, we see collars on lion and leopard and wild dog and cheetah, and we see collars on, I've seen a collar on a zebra. What else have you seen collars on, Brian? think I've seen collars on, that's it really. So although you can put collars on most things, it's only the animals that I've just made mention of that I've seen collars on. Excuse us swatting here like crazy. My arch nemesis out here in the bush. Fly. I'm sure more than a few of you share my sentiments out there. You know, amazing, while Brian and I have been driving around here, the south-western part of the reserve looks like it received far more rain than the eastern part of the reserve and the central part of the reserve. So it looks like the cloud burst, although we had a fair amount of rain, was definitely more substantial in this direction over here. Big pools of water lying in the mitre drains, big, even to some points on the road where water has actually been eroding the road away, which means that there was a lot of water that was coming down there. Lovely cool afternoon, fantastic thunder shower this afternoon. I don't think more than 20 mils of rain fell. Birds are starting to sing again. Not that they've stopped through the day, but it just seems like the area we're in at the moment is having a bird party going on. Calls coming. I'm so glad I missed that python. Have a look at that. It's actually a tiny python. It's not a hatchling, but it is a young python, counting its lucky stars. That S-bend that you see in that python's neck, I'll show him. There he goes. It's a 6-foot snake, and it's a baby, believe it or not. I'm so glad that I saw him at the last minute. Let's see if we can get a closer view. Just going to reverse up there. Lovely patterns, and that's what we call the African rock python. It's probably gone back underneath the stump where it came out of. So camouflaged. I mean, I don't see it anywhere. I don't see it having come out of this bush, and yet completely disappeared. Boom, gone. One 6-foot African rock python disappeared into the shrubbery that I would have absolutely no problem sticking my face into on one of my bushwalks. Nice spot though, and I'm very, very glad that I saw it at the last moment. Good. African rock python, yeah. They can get quite big. They can get up to 6 meters. What is 6 meters in, no, they're not going to get that big, surely not. I'll have to have a look in my reptile book when we stop. I want to say 6 meters for some reason. It's a fact coming into my memory. 6 meters is about 18 feet, but I think that's a bit too big for African rock python. You'll probably find it's closer to about 4 meters, with 6 foot being about average for a youngster like that. That's the most common size we find, and then every now and again we find a nice fat one. Now that one, to give you an example, or to give you a reference as to how thick it was, at its thickest it was as thick as my wrist, like that. I have found them this fat, thicker than my waist. And I've even found them eating impala, can you believe it or not? I'll double check that fact as soon as we get to the hyena den for you, and I'll let you know exactly how big they get. But definitely big enough for 2 people to have to pick up. I caught one once with a friend of mine who's actually in fact still got it, and that requires both of us to pick it up. It's impossible for us to pick her up. It's a female with just one, and she is this big. Yeah, proper snake. Alright, we are en route to the hyena den on Mvubu Road. That's where we're going now. We were following the buffalo through here a little bit earlier today. I'm sure the hyenas heard the buffalo come past. The buffalo didn't go anywhere close to the den, and I don't think the hyena would have done anything to the buffalo in any case. 6 meters. Brian's just double checked in his app now. 6 meters. So my memory was correct. So 18 feet is the largest African rock python ever recorded. I mean, that is just unbelievable. Probably close to 50 kilograms, that 50, 60 kilogram snake, 120 pound snake at 18 feet. That's proper. So you can see that one that we just saw now, that was a babe, relatively speaking, even though it was 6 feet long. I'm sure I haven't passed the access to this. What quite often happens when large numbers of buffalo move through an area is that 2-track roads, some warthog. Now generally seeing warthog out here is a marksman's feat at trying to capture, because they are almost always running at full speed. And there we go, true to form, Brian though is on it. So you've got 2 warthogs running away. Nice one, Brian, you got them. You're racking up the species today. Oh yeah, there you go, they're going to come across here. Let's see, just got them in the distance. They are going to cross the road in a couple of seconds. Get your screenshots ready. Let's see if they actually come on. No, they're running parallel. No, here they go, here they go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, and then they stop on the edge. There we go, Brian's on it. Tail down, looking up. As soon as they start running again, tail will go up. There you go, well done, tail up. That's their following mechanism. For those of you who are tail down, there's a very nice folklore story that says that when the warthogs were made, there was too little skin going around. So warthogs have got an incredibly tight skin. And when they run through the bush, because they're at grass level, the grass slaps into their eyes, and they have to close their eyes tightly, and that pulls the skin tight on their back and raises their tail. And then because they get scared because they're running blind, they have to stop, and as they open up their eyes, their tail goes down. Those of you who believe in folklore, you've just seen testimony to that little Shangaan folklore story. And hopefully you got a nice screenshot of the much seen out here, but not very often photographed warthog. I'm sure this is it. I just want to say thank you to the viewers that have been sending in facts and figures on those African rock pythons. There's been a couple of you that have come out with some figures. Jill has come through with a link that says 16 to 18 feet. It is not uncommon for the African rock python. So, almost got a young impala. There we go. A young impala busy nursing on mom. Pamela has just asked a nice question from Ohio. Is the African rock python the most aggressive snake? Pamela, no, they are known to bite. They bite quite readily when you handle them, especially youngsters like that. But that being said, they're not particularly aggressive snakes. Generally, the smaller snakes are and your adders are more aggressive, like the many-horned adder or the berg adder bites very readily. The stiletto snake is more aggressive in my opinion, also bites readily. Cape centipede eater and wolf snake, they all bite readily, they're all more aggressive than the python. And then you of course get your big venomous snakes. Your black mamba, not really aggressive, more nervous than anything else, but also bites without too much provocation. Puff adders, they've been known to, some are more bitey than others, and I find the smaller they are, the more bitey they are. So no, I would say that they're not that aggressive. They can be bitey, but they're not that aggressive, comparatively speaking to other snakes. Okay, we are coming up to the hyena den. John has asked an interesting question. What would have made that python come out onto the road? Would it have been warmth or would it have been prey? John, it's quite common to find snakes after rain on roads, and I must say that it's probably got a lot to do with warmth. I think that they get quite cold in their lairs, wherever they are hiding, and I think that the coming onto the road allows them to get warmth from the road. Obviously, being an open space, it gets warmed up from the sun a bit better than the bush. So it would have come out onto the road just for a bit of warmth. And then we got one hyena. I think I need to go forward a bit, Brian. There you go. One hyena in a den. Also just enjoying the warmth. I can actually see where some mud has been pushed into this, and you can see they haven't quite started scraping the den clean yet. That hyena is not looking happy with life. Looks like they got a bad hangover. At least that's what I look like when I've got a bad hangover. There's quite a nice debate going on amongst our long-term viewers now about actually trying to get some identification kits going on these hyena. And I must say, I've been privy to a few of the emails and things going around, and a few of the identi kits that are going around at the moment, but I haven't really paid much attention. I know it's bad of me. This looks like a fairly old female. And I'm told that this looks like Corky, who's got some cubs here. And I'm saying that because Corky apparently has got a scar on her head, and I can actually see there is some scars, an old bite mark on top of her head. She's also an older female. You can see that almost hairless pate that she's got. Resembles me with only hair on the back of my head. There's also a distinctive nick out of her ear, her left ear. Too, in actual fact, it looks like it's been bitten and torn, which is quite common amongst hyenas. And she is the mother of the two twins, D1 and D2. Now, although I find hyenas funny to look at, I absolutely love them. Them and honey badger are singularly my favorite animals in the bush. And the reason is not purely aesthetics. I love hyenas because they're always doing something. They're always busy, they're always up to some or other type of mischief. Their social structures make them endearing, they've got personalities, and you almost feel sorry for them, almost. And they always seem like they're the underdogs, and that appeals to me. For some or other odd reason, I am keyed to the underdog, which I think I do share with a few of you out there. Very typical hyena, spotted hyena pattern, as opposed to the brown hyena, which is the only other hyena that we find here. Well, I suppose you could call the aardwolf, the earth wolf, a termite-eating hyena, or member of the hyena family. So we actually have 3 of them out here. The earth wolf, the spotted hyena, and the brown hyena. Although the brown hyena in the Kruger National Park is a rare occurrence, they do really, really well in the deserts of Namibia and on the west coast of South Africa. And in actual fact, wherever there are no spotted hyena, you find brown hyena being quite prevalent. Now this morning, the hyena were making an awful racket at the dam, at Djuma Dam. And I'm sure some of you would have noticed the activity. They were having a drink there as soon as we went live, or around about when we went live this morning. It must have been about 4:45, 4:30, 4:45 our time. And they probably wouldn't have done much today, even though it was a cool day and they could have been moving around. And that's maybe where the other members of this clan are, is that they've used the cool ambient temperature to go and forage, pick up their energy reserves so that they can produce enough milk for their babies. This particular hyena has spent the day at the den. I noticed just from the tracks around the den, she hasn't moved after the rain. Carl has just asked, how many hyena pups can I get in a litter? Not I can get in a litter, they can get in a litter. Anywhere from 1 to 6 would be the average. Anywhere from 1 to 6 hyena cubs. However, they almost always, you only see 1 to 2. It's very rare for them to be able to bring up all 6. In actual fact, I only think that they bring up or are able to whelp 6 in areas where hyena do exceptionally well, and that is nowhere in the Kruger National Park. Spotted hyena do exceptionally well on the Great Plains in Africa. So anywhere from western Zambia up into Tanzania and into Kenya, hyena and spotted hyena do incredibly well. And I think in those areas you find that the females there give birth to many more young than here, and you'll find that many of those youngsters would survive past the early days in the den and then obviously into adulthood. Here, I only ever really see 1 or 2 per female. That looks very dog-like. For those new to the show and are watching for the first time, they are actually closer related to bears and mongoose than they are to dogs. And if you're wanting to know if they are closer to dogs or to cats, they're actually closer to cats. So the furthest away from dogs, closer to cats, but in actual fact very similar to bears. It's our southern hemisphere equivalent of a bear, I would say. Am I wanting to say that? At a stretch, I think. I'll say that. I'll stick by what I said, but at a stretch. Now, we're quickly going to cross over to Jamie. She's got something to show you.
I've brought you across here because one of these young Inyala has been dashing about like a little maniac, running backwards and forwards. I think rejoicing in the rainfall. Can't see which one it was. It was a slightly younger one. It was a baby. I don't know where it went. The joys of filming live safaris is that with wildlife, you never quite know what to expect next. There we go. I think it was that little one that was running around like a maniac. They've just moved into some really dense vegetation. Let me see if I can reverse backwards. When these two disappear, I'll try and reposition and get us another view. I've returned to check the drainage lines for signs of pregnant kudu and a vula, of course. And Pamela, just a quick update while our Nyala are being uncooperative and camera shy. The wild dogs did not, unfortunately, decide to head towards the Arathusa boundary. They were in the opposite direction. So, not today, but you never know. Tomorrow is another day. And they could well decide at some point, first thing in the morning, to come dashing across to us. Oh no, I thought they were grooming each other. They're just feeding near each other. Well, I think our Nyala action has calmed down, and Steph is still standing patiently by at that wonderful hyena den, so let's pop back over there.
This sub-adult has just wandered in here from the bush, and I was actually looking very carefully for hyenas lying underneath bushes on my way in here, and I didn't spot a single one. And this youngster has just ambled in from exactly the direction we came from, carrying something, and has put it down at the entrance to the mound, or to the entrance of the communal den area, and is now proceeding to open it. And I almost want to say that it's a baby tortoise or it's a terrapin of some sort. That's what I want to say, although I cannot for the life of me see what it is. So I'm hoping that the hyena will pick it up and we can actually see what she's brought in. Now, it's not uncommon for a hyena to bring food to the den. In actual fact, amongst the carnivores, it's one of the most efficient ways of getting protein at the den is to bring back kills. Brown hyena do it a lot, but what happens at hyena dens is generally the higher ranking members of the or who are at the den will steal it from any lower ranking member. But because this is a sub-adult, a youngster, they have certain privileges. He or she has not yet been introduced into the clan hierarchy and is treated with almost silk gloves, I should say. They get away with almost anything. They even at this age mob adults and get away with it. And that is why the adult that's at the den there hasn't come down to come and steal the kill just yet. I'm trying my best to try and see what's in the mouth of this little hyena. You'll notice what I mean about this one being a youngster. When you see the head is still very furry. Look at the neck. I mean, obviously, have a look at all the fur on the head. It's just hacked up piece of whatever they're chewing. And of course, I didn't have my eyes on the binoculars. And just now, when we go back to the adult, contrast the hairy head with a full-grown adult that is almost hairless. An old, very mature hyena, they are almost bald. They don't have very much hair on their bodies whatsoever. But this guy's still got a full body of hair. Nice, big, thick, shaggy coat. And because it's a hyena, something I absolutely do not want to run my fingers through or snuggle up to in any way, shape or form whatsoever. As much as I love them, they are the most manky things that I can think of. So we've just had our hyena vocalize quite close to us. There's a cub coming out of the den, D2 or D1, reacting to that vocalization Obviously, hyenas are nocturnal, and with it getting dark now, hello. Oh, what a cute question. Isabella, who's only 4 years old. I mean, Isabella, you are just a little bit older than my little boy, and you wanted to know if the snake we saw a bit earlier would be able to eat one of these hyena. Not the snake that we saw, not that particular individual, but definitely pythons will be able to kill and eat one of these cubs if they caught these cubs without the adults being there. So yes, absolutely, a big python will be able to eat not the mommy, not this adult hyena, but definitely one of these babies, and even the sub-adult. They're definitely within the prey range of a python, not the one that we saw there. And mom is just giving a late afternoon bath to that one. Oh, look at his face. Debbie in Vancouver has asked whether hyena are considered to be nocturnal or diurnal, or nocturnal referring to are active at night, and diurnal referring to them being active in the daytime. Because Debbie's actually seen them active all the time. Debbie, that's actually an incredibly good question. Generally, hyena are nocturnal, generally, but they will hunt during the day if they need to. They will wander during the day. It's quite common for nomadic males to arrive at leopard kills during the middle of the day. It's not uncommon to see them in the day, especially see them active. But generally they are described as being nocturnal. In other words, they are more likely to be more active at nighttime. Now what you're watching over here is a very elaborate greeting ceremony, very similar to how your dogs greet one another, sniffing one another's genitals. And the reason why they sniff the nether regions is because hyenas have a very well-developed olfactory communication system. And one of the glands that they use quite often is a gland that's in their rectum, or an anal gland. And what they're doing there is they are greeting one another by sniffing there. And what's happened is the full-grown adult has moved off in the direction of where that call was coming from, leaving behind this cub and taking with it the sub-adult that arrived. If that sub-adult is from a junior ranking female, it will have to start attending kills. And hyenas that arrive in pairs, in other words, this full-grown adult plus a sub-adult, are more likely to be given access to a kill than if the sub-adult had to just arrive on their own. Obviously, these cubs have been left. They are not old enough to attend the adults just yet. And so they are left here at the den to fend for themselves. And mom will come back, and depending on her social status, will most likely just give them milk, and may on occasion bring them a tidbit of a carcass that they've got. Now obviously silly cubs don't survive to become silly adults, and just years and years of selective pressure have developed this trait that you see now. The adult didn't call the cub stayed behind, moved to the entrance of the den, and hyena cubs will actually go and excavate bolt holes inside the den that only they can fit into. So they'll be very wary around the mouth of this den. And Susan in New York wanted to know, do animals ever die of old age? Susan, we're just going to switch the volume up a bit higher. We've got hyena vocalizing quite close. I'll finish your question now, Susan. Listen carefully. One of my favorite calls in the bush is the full-on haunting, mournful call of a spotted hyena. This is the sub-adult that's coming back. I have no doubt that the adult that left us was the one that was doing that call. They vocalize for any number of reasons, but generally speaking, they vocalize to establish contact with other clan members in the area and to get an idea of what's going on. So they will vocalize at kills, they will vocalize at fights, they will vocalize when they're on territorial boundaries, they'll vocalize at the beginning of a hunt, at the end of a hunt, at the beginning of an evening, at the end of an evening, and it's just all basically saying is, hey, I'm here, this is me, where are you, and what are you up to? You can see the sub-adult has come back now. Bit of a greeting session with the two youngsters that were left. Bethany, all the way from Virginia, has made an interesting observation. This morning on the Djuma Dam cam, Bethany was watching one of the hyenas vocalize and noticed that the hyena pointed her face at the ground, or their face at the ground, and called into the ground, and was wondering if that made a difference to how far the sound could travel. And Bethany, absolutely, it makes a big difference. They echo the sound off of the ground and bounce it around, and it is absolutely a way for sound waves to carry a little bit further. Look at this one busy pesting that youngster there now. So good observation there, Bethany. Something that you see only a hyena doing, calling with their face on the ground and putting a lot of effort into it. Very camouflaged. And while this hyena is playing hide and go seek and the two cubs are down in the burrow or in their den, we're quickly going to cross over to Jamie for a cameo link.
Okay, so I'm almost certain that this is the herd of kudu that we saw yesterday. Having, I wouldn't say spent the day trying to find them, but certainly spent a fair amount of time, longer than I ever have before in my life, trying to find a specific herd of kudu. This is definitely that or that group that's full of incredibly pregnant females. I'm going to try and get another view. Remember, for those of you who were watching yesterday afternoon, remember that female had a really interesting sort of split stripe and around her back end. And there's about 3 females in this herd that are at bursting point. We mentioned that we were going to try, I mean it's incredibly difficult, but to try and capture a live kudu birth on camera would be incredible. Oh, so dense in here. This is why it might be a little bit tricky. The vegetation that they prefer to live in is so thick and so dense. Let me see if there's a chance to see them around this corner. There's a bit of an open spot. Sort of. Fraction here. Here we go. And she is one of the pregnant females. I've said that their nipples are starting to swell. There you go, you can see how close they are to giving birth. And it has a couple of sub-adult females, which is also a way that I've been identifying this particular herd. It's tricky because kudu don't have set herd structures. So they move about as they please. I still haven't seen that female though with the markings. With this, oh, is that her? Not quite. Almost. I'll know her when I see her. But there's also always the possibility that she actually had her baby at some point over the last 24 hours. Best time for a live kudu birth, of course, is first thing in the morning or around the middle of the day. But for our sunrise drives, that would be the best time to tune in to see if we can maybe... We did say we accepted the challenge. It's going to be a tricky one because, as you can see, the vegetation that they're moving in is very, very dense. And I think that's a very common... I mean, that's where kudu live. But I think in particular for the pregnant females, it provides them with a little bit of a sense of security to be hidden away like that. I think our females have vanished. You try one more time around the other side. See if we can get a view. Otherwise, we can hop back over to Steph. Let's just have a look. Obviously, if we do see one of them giving birth, we don't want to disrupt them in any way. So if we lose visual of them in the thick bush, we won't be able to follow them. Look at that bulging belly. She looks enormous. Oh well, we could get lucky in the next few days. We just have to keep our fingers crossed. And you will have to just stay tuned. Well, lovely kudu, thank you for gracing us with your presence this evening. At least we know that they're still moving about in very similar areas. So we'll have a good place to start. If nothing else changes between now and tomorrow morning, we'll have a good place to start our sunrise safari. Okay, I'm going to continue looking for wondrous things, and I'm going to send you back across to Steph while I do.
Just before it gets dark, we thought that we'd try and show you some action one last time before we sign off. And to my mind is pretty much inactive. The two youngsters darted off into the hole. The sub-adult is lying just behind the trees there, trying very best to camouflage herself. But we just wanted to show you how big this termite mound actually is. It's a real bus of a termite mound. It's probably from the top of itself to the bottom, which is from halfway up the screen at the moment where you can see it, and the bottom of the termite mound is right at the base of the screen itself, there where that... It's probably close to about 2.5 meters. So to take it to 10 feet in just straight elevation. It's a massive termite mound and easily as big as a small apartment. The sub-adult does not come out of hiding. And I wandered up to the den site, the second tunnel, the second den site. And you got a nice view of its tail. Spotted hyena there, it's just been hidden now, so what you don't have a view of now is its tail. But the spotted hyena's tail holds much superstitious power amongst the shamans and witch doctors in the Shangaan tribe. That and the hyena's nose. I'm not quite sure what the tail signifies, but the nose is said to let people put into potions and put into spells. The belief is that it's supposed to help you sniff out trouble and sniff out opportunity. And quite often you'll find, especially hyena outside of the reserves, or when you find a carcass when one has been accidentally hit by a car or caught in some other way, that their tail and their nose is missing. That's quite a macabre topic at the moment. I thought I'd just finish it and not speak about it again. The youngster's now moved off to the den site, to the other tunnel, and is laying down probably just to avoid being pestered by the two youngsters left in the other one, and will wait here and not wander off too far on its own without one of the adults being back. And from time to time through the evening, adults will wander backwards and forwards into the den, and you may even find that this youngster's mom comes and fetches it if they've made a big kill, or if there's a kill that they all are able to partake in. Generally speaking though, an adult will come back, nurse for a bit, and then leave again. And we are finding out here that we are finding a lot of activity first thing in the mornings. Not so much activity in the afternoons, but the mornings are generally quite good. I've just heard a crack off to our right hand side. You notice that hyena immediately picked up its head. I don't quite know what that was, and it could have literally just been a big bird kicking off of a tree. This little hyena, whose senses are much better than mine, hasn't seemed too alarmed, although it's picked up its head now and is looking out into the bush. I can't see anything, although that doesn't say much. I was busy looking for hyenas on the way in here and missed this one lying somewhere. Jen B has made a nice observation now. You'd think that if hyenas' senses of smell were so well developed, why then would they stick their noses right up in each other's businesses? Jen B, I can only imagine that there has to be some pleasure derived from it in some form or another. You're right, there is no real reason why, if they've got a good sense of smell, that why it wouldn't just be good enough to walk past one of their neighbors. However, I think that, being able to get your nose as close to you as you can to the gland means that you stand the chance of gathering every last bit of information that gland has to say about you. Not using glands myself to communicate with my friends and my family, I can't really talk about what they're gathering from it, but they tend to take an absolute time to make sure that they greet each other properly. So yeah, bizarre comment there, but nice observation. As you can see, the light is fading now. Benjamin has asked me, what are hyenas' natures like? Would they attack a human? Benjamin, hyenas are bold. They're very cautious. They can be very aggressive. However, they tend to be, I think that caution overweighs aggression more often than not. They are definitely inquisitive. They are intelligent. They're highly social, which means that they enjoy each other's company. They are very dangerous, in my opinion. Amongst ourselves here in these game reserves, I rate hyena as being the most dangerous mammal that we have hanging around our camps, simply because out of all the members, all the big predators out here, they're the only one who regularly walks into our camps. So we've got a hyena that walks into our star village and on odd occasions picks up our dustbin and carries it outside into a place that's got one entry and one exit, full of human beings, and just walks it in there. You're going to Jamie? She's got a hyena calling.
How cool is this? No, don't stop doing it, boy. Or girl. 2 seconds ago, this hyena was calling. It's now gone for a drink at that new pan. Might even go for a swim. We're about, just to give you guys a rough idea, I'd say 700 meters away from the den. Cool. That was a nice surprise. it just goes to show that you never know what to expect. I certainly didn't expect to find a hyena doing its wonderful whooping call as we were making our way back towards quarantine. Awesome surprise. Well, what a wonderful afternoon it's been. We had that incredible surprise of Kwatile, a leopard that I have not seen in somewhere in the region of about 3 months. It was incredibly exciting to see her. And a big thank you to VM for all of his fantastic camera work, as well as to the lovely FC ladies and to Steph. I'm going to send you back across to Steph for the last few moments of the sunset safari. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Just enough time for us to say goodbye as well from the hyena den here off of Mvubu Road. We've had a really good afternoon, I must be honest with you. It's been a real pleasure to be out here, and I must say thank you to Brian. He's been a source of much delight on today, and to the 2 ladies in FC, Jerry and Kirsty, thank you very much. And thank you to you for all your questions, all your interests. We will see you tomorrow for the sunrise safari. Catch you then.